In an open pit mine in Western Germany, there is a machine that weighs 14,200 tons. The machine is called Bagger 293. Bagger is just the German word for excavator, which really undersells how massive this thing actually is. So massive that Guinness recognizes it as the heaviest terrestrial vehicle ever built, weighing 14,196 tons, usually rounded to 14,200. So to put this into simple terms, it is the heaviest machine ever built that can actually move across land. It stands 96 meters tall, stretches 225 meters long, and is 46 meters wide. And somehow, the entire thing can still crawl across the mine on 12 enormous caterpillar tracks, which spread out its weight enough to keep it from sinking into the ground. But it still moves extremely slowly, usually between 2 and 10 meters per minute, with a top speed of around 0.6 kilometers per hour. So if it were racing a turtle, they would be like neck and neck. But when you consider that the machine weighs 14,200 tons, the fact that it can move at all is honestly one of the most impressive parts about Bagger 293. Now, since we're claiming records, there is one small technicality. Bagger 293 gets its power through an external high voltage cable, so it's not considered fully self-powered. That record usually goes to NASA's Crawler Transporter, but NASA's machine only weighs around 2,700 tons. I mean, I say only, but relatively. Bagger 293 weighs more than 5 times that much. You may have also seen footage of a giant German excavator crossing a river and highway in 2001. That was actually Bagger 288, its older and slightly lighter sibling. Bagger 293 has spent its entire life working in the Hambach mine, slowly making the same enormous hole even bigger. So this brings us to the first question I had. Why would anyone need to build a machine this big? So first, let's look at the part that actually does the digging. The bucket wheel is more than 21 meters across, which is about the height of a 6-story building, and it has 18 buckets that continuously cut into the mine wall. So as the wheel spins, the boom moves from side to side, so instead of taking one scoop at a time, it slowly shaves entire layers off the earth. The amount of material this machine can move is honestly hard to picture. So in a single day, it can remove up to 240,000 cubic meters of coal or soil. What might even be more surprising to you is how few people it takes to operate. So it takes around 5 people to run the entire machine during a shift. That means there are more than 2,800 tons of machinery for every person operating it. Now, why does this machine exist? Well, because of a problem with the type of coal found in Western Germany. Simply put, it's not very good coal. The Rhineland has large deposits of lignite, also known as brown coal, and this type of coal can be 50 to 60% water. It produces far less energy than harder black coal, and transporting it very far does not make financial sense because a large part of what you are moving is basically water. So because of that, the coal has to be burned close to where it is mined. Germany's solution to this? Build massive power plants right next to the mines. The mines, conveyor belts, railways, and power stations all work together as one connected system, with coal constantly moving through it. Bagger 293 was built to keep that system running without interruption. Using individual trucks simply would not have worked at this scale. Also, if you like crazy videos about machines like this one, make sure to subscribe. I got a lot more cool videos coming. There was another problem. The coal at Hambach can sit beneath hundreds of meters of soil, sand, gravel, and rock. For every ton of lignite they extract, the mine may have to remove around 4.9 cubic meters of material sitting above it. So even though Bagger 293 was built for coal mining, most of what it actually digs is not coal at all. Its main job is removing everything that is in its way. And trucks would not work very well here for one simple reason. Power plants need a constant supply of fuel, while trucks have to load up, drive away, dump everything, come back, and wait to do it all over again. Replacing Bagger 293 would require a massive fleet of trucks, hundreds of drivers, and a huge amount of diesel. A conveyor system like this can keep moving material without stopping. So really, the machine is this massive, big, enormous, whatever adjective you want, because the coal is not very good. And low quality coal meant the power plants had to be built nearby. Those plants needed a constant supply, and supplying them non-stop required some of the largest excavators ever built. And watching this machine work actually may be calmer than you might expect. The base slowly crawls along the mine while the upper part of the machine rotates separately above it. As the boom moves the bucket wheel from side to side, it cuts steps into the ground. This is why satellite images of the Hambach mine look less like a normal construction site and more like the surface of another planet. As each bucket reaches the top of the wheel, it dumps the material onto a conveyor belt system inside the machine. From there, it travels down the boom and into the mine's much larger conveyor system. The coal is then sent towards storage areas, railways, and nearby power plants. The soil and rock go into a completely different direction, where other giant machines called spreaders dump it into parts of the mine that have already been excavated or use it to reshape the land. There's also a loop going on here that I find interesting. So Bagger 293 uses about 16.56 megawatts of electricity. And historically, much of that power came from the same lignite plants the machine helped supply. So the machine digs the coal is used to generate electricity, and that electricity is then used to power the machine so it can dig even more coal. So operating Bagger 293, what's that really look like? Well, it's definitely not like driving a normal vehicle. Its crawler tracks slowly adjust to change direction, and even a small simple turn can take hours, and most of the time the machine only moves short distances as it works its way along the mine. And there's a control room high above the ground, and this is where the operators control the bucket wheel, boom, cutting depth, conveyor belts, and crawler system, while automation helps keep everything working together. And the maintenance also has to happen right where the machine is, because there's no building large enough to fit it inside. Crews repair the steel structure, replace bucket teeth, belts, motors, and gearboxes, and use mobile cranes for the largest parts. So what is Bagger 293's life expectancy? Well, machines like this can keep operating for 50 years or longer. And that's important because Bagger 293 may be shut down long before it actually stops working. So across the Rhineland Lignite District, more than 32,500 hectares of land have been excavated. The Hambach mine alone is more than 400 meters deep, and the bottom sits around 299 meters below sea level, making it one of the deepest man-made points in Europe. But the mine did not just remove dirt. Around 60 villages across the region have either been relocated or completely demolished, and more than 40,000 people have reportedly been forced to move. One example is Mannheim, a village that was more than 1,000 years old. Residents were moved to a new community called Mannheim Neu, while the original village was torn down as the mine expanded. And these are serious claims, so I include all the sources for this information in the description of this video. So when I say this machine eats entire landscapes, I mean it. It has not only removed the land itself, but also the towns and communities that once stood on it. Then there's the Hambach Forest, which was around 12,000 years old. RWE, the energy company that owns the mine, bought the forest in 1978, and over time, roughly 90% of it was cleared for mining. In 2012, activists began living in tree houses in the remaining section of the forest, and after years of protests and court battles, they were eventually able to stop the rest of it from being cleared. And during that time, the giant excavators at Hambach, like Bagger 293, became symbols of Germany's continued reliance on coal. So why did Germany do this in the first place? Well, at its peak, the Hambach mine reportedly supplied around 5% of the country's electricity. It was a major source of reliable, domestic energy, but it also came with human and environmental costs. Then the story turned. So Bagger 293 has never been outclassed by a newer machine. It is not worn out. Nothing is broken that could not be fixed. What is ending its career is legislation. In 2020, Germany passed its coal exit law, a legal timetable for shutting down the entire coal system. A 2022 agreement pulled the Rhineland lignite phase-out forward to 2030, and coal extraction at Hambach is scheduled to end in 2029. To make this happen, Germany agreed to pay around 4.35 billion euros in compensation to the companies that operate the lignite mines. And just to put that into perspective, Bagger 293 reportedly cost around 100 million euros to build. So the problem for Bagger 293 is that the entire system was built for one very specific purpose. The machine, conveyor belts, railways, and power plants all depend on each other, which make the operation extremely efficient. But once the coal system shuts down, there is not much else Bagger 293 can realistically be used for. And what happens to a hole that is more than 400 meters deep once the mining stops? Well, Germany's plan is to fill it with water. Starting around 2030, water from the Rhine and the mine's existing water systems is expected to begin flowing into the Hambach pit. Once it is finished, the artificial lake could cover around 36 square kilometers, reach depths of up to 360 meters, and become the second largest lake in Germany by volume. Filling the mine will take around 40 years, meaning the lake may not reach its final level until sometime around 2070. And for decades, the goal was to pump water out of this pit. Soon, Germany will be building an entirely new system just to put the water back in. And at this point, no one has officially announced what will happen to Bagger 293. It may spend its final years helping reshape the slopes for the future lake. It could also be dismantled and recycled right where it stands, or possibly preserved as an industrial monument near the water. And moving it somewhere else is almost impossible because the machine was built specifically for this mine, this type of coal, and this exact system. And Germany is not the only country dealing with something like this. Around the world, massive machines, mines, and power systems were built around fuels that many countries are now trying to move away from. Shutting those systems down and replacing them is going to cost billions of dollars over the coming decades. And Bagger 293 will most likely stop working while it's still fully capable of operating. It will not be retired because it's too old, too heavy, or broken. It is being retired because Germany no longer wants the coal system it was built for. If you want to learn more about massive machines, structures, and systems that shape the world around us, make sure you subscribe. I'm Tristan, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.